know I've been quiet for a minute. I've been grinding, still in it. I've been counting these digits. Excuse me. I know I've been quiet for a minute, but I'm back on my business.
All right, welcome to another episode of Level24 Podcast. I saw that you're busy today. You're on your second one already in less than an hour.
Yeah.
How'd it go?
It went very well. You know, sometimes coming into these interviews or meetings, whatever you want to call it, you never really know what's going to come out. So sometimes that's scary, but you know, you got to hope for the best.
Yeah.
You never want to say anything that sounds bad.
Yeah.
But they always turn out really fun, and you just have like real conversations, and that's the best thing about these.
Yeah, I did tune into some of it. So I did want to bring up a point that he talked about, which was he has this separated, it sounded like, from his Instagram to his TikTok, and his TikTok was his referrals, basically, right? And Instagram is just like his personal.
Yeah.
I think something that we try to preach to everybody is, what just happened, right, with the TikTok? It was banned for 24 hours, I think it was.
Yeah.
Right? And it could still be banned, or someone's going to buy it. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But if a platform disappears like that, you're going to lose all of that following and all the attention you had on that platform. Mm-hmm. So I think in his case, which we can talk to him later about, right, is you want to mix it in. You know, between TikTok to your Instagram, into your Facebook, there's a red note that was popping up, and Clapper. You know, there's a bunch of different ones. So you probably want to spread your attention so that you're not solely focused or relying on just one for all your business.
Yeah, I think that's a big rule in business of any kind, is to not put all your eggs in one basket. You know, and I think some people learned that when TikTok was shut down for a day, half a day.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many hours it was, but some people got really scared. And why? You know, you should diversify. You should have more than one place of where you get business from. And that goes for anything, any kind of lead gen. You shouldn't just rely on one place. Right. So, you know, you got to learn the hard way. Sometimes you get shut down and then you react. But I think this is like a wake-up call for people to start thinking about being on multiple platforms and getting out there and networking and spreading and sharing, you know, your message.
So somebody asked me something, and I was waiting for today to talk about it. And it was, they were asking me, how do you and I, how do we separate, you know, our relationship and then it's business, mm-hmm. You know, because like, thankfully, you know, we don't really argue. There's things that we don't always agree on, mm-hmm. But I want to hear your side of it.
Oh, man. Okay. How do we separate? I think for me, it's not difficult because I don't know. I mean, business is business, and you know, our personal relationship is personal. But in both, you can have a difference of opinion. Mm. You can have challenging questions to each other. Why? Because we're not always going to see everything the same way. And I think that's healthy. I think that opposing view challenges you to think or see things in a different perspective, in a different light. And what does that do to us? It makes us human, and then it gives us inspiration to think about things. So if I'm frustrated at, you know, not being able to complete a project or a task or something, you know, I'm sure you're going to say like, why am I so dramatic? You know, but then we can 5 minutes later come back together and say, hey, I'm hungry. What do you want to eat?
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's taken me some time though to get there, to get to that place in my life where I can separate, emotions, I guess. Yes, you're going to get frustrated at traffic, but am I going to come home and, just like take it out on everybody in the house?
Exactly.
No, I'm not. So it takes some people some time, to not bring problems that are not originated at home, so you gotta just separate it, but then you also have to just be open and be okay with not agreeing. Like, that's the beauty of life.
Yeah, and that's something that I used to struggle with before a lot. So now it's like, as soon as I think of something, it's coming out.
Yeah.
Whether you or whoever likes it or not, and we'll talk about it after, but I was like, this is what I think.
Yeah. So that's different for me, because I like to think about things first before I speak. So I might dwell on it, or this might have been me before, I'll sit and I'll dwell on it. But then what I realize, though, is like it eats me up inside if I don't come out and say it. So I'm like now swallowing, not my pride, but just swallowing my thoughts, my ideas, something I really wanted to say. And then what does that do to my creative self? Like, it kind of kills it.
Yeah.
So I've learned over time, I've adopted something that you've taught me, which is if you see something, if you have an idea, say it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of the cool thing of what we do now. It's, we don't like to work with, for the marketing side, we don't like to work with a potential client who has absolutely no input. And it's actually, I don't get it. If it's your business, why are you not going to tell us what your ideas and your thoughts are? And then if it's a good idea, we'll tell you it's a good idea. Or if there's something we think we should tweak, we'll tell you. But together, I think, is how we grow, this person's marketing, and eventually that grows their business, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, why don't you say what?
Yeah. We've come across some people who really don't have any input. And to some, that might be okay. It's like, I could probably take that project and run with it and be okay with it, but it wouldn't feel good. Because now we've adopted a business.
I was going to say, I'm like, well, in that case, where do I sign so I can collect the check from the income that you're making?
Right, right. And I think that comes from maybe somebody who doesn't have any input. Maybe they didn't give enough time to think about their business, which is a big no-no. Because if you have a business of any kind, like, you should really think about what you want it to do, what your process is, like something. You should have some kind of say to what your marketing plan or strategy is going to be, to what the outcome, the solution, whatever you're providing, in your business. Like, you should know. I feel like that's business 101. Yeah. Otherwise, what are you doing this for?
No, exactly. And I think you're totally right. But it can change. And that's fine, but have the idea at least.
Yeah.
Right. You can ask for input on stuff, but I think if it's your business, you got to give your 2 cents.
Yeah.
And there is other cases, right, where maybe you have the idea, you build the business, but the actual growing the business part is not you. So once you're making the income, expand. Pay somebody or bring someone in who also has a similar same vision as you, and maybe that person is a boss. You're the owner in the back, and you're saying you want this and this, but let them run it. I mean, that's what ends up happening, right?
Yeah,
The big companies like Apple, with Tim Cook, he didn't create it. But he's running it now.
But he carried out the vision and helped continue it, but the vision really started where? So yeah, the vision of a company has to start somewhere. I mean, if it's not coming from the business owner, then I don't know where it's going to come from, because once you have too many influences or too much outside input, then, you kind of lost, like you lost yourself.
Yeah.
So
did you ever have you were talking about it in your last podcast before this one, how you actually started like a smaller marketing company, kind of like inside of your W-2 job, I guess. But even before that, and this is coming from, I was also asked another question, which I'll get into. Like when you were 10 or something like that, did you ever say you want to be a business owner, or like what was your?
No, when I was younger, I really was on this idea that I was going to get good grades, get into a good school, and then find my career through that path. Not once did I ever say I was going to get into real estate, which would then evolve me into getting into marketing, getting into the understanding the psychology of people, human behavior, consumer habits. Like I never once, when I was 10, did I ever think that I was going to fall into where I'm at today. I think when I was 10, I was pretending like that I was a secretary or I had some kind of, office job. I always like had yeah, no. I always had like this pretend, like this calculator, and I just wanted to like type or something. And I don't know. I think maybe back then though, technology is definitely not where it's at today.
Yeah.
So the idea of having a computer or, even I would go with my parents to the bank, and I used to love how the tellers would type in the numbers.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like it's today where that entrepreneurial like spirit has really grown or is really being shown. So I think back then, like when we were little, it was pushed on us, I guess, I know my parents did it. It was like mom said be a lawyer, dad said be a doctor. I don't want to be one of those.
Yeah.
I had a huge passion for I still do, sports and soccer in general. I wanted to play soccer for my whole life. And but seeing things from my dad when he was buying rentals, flipping homes, I had this like itch and I wasn't sure what it was. And it ended up being that I don't want to have a boss and I want to do my own thing. And I was actually introduced to, what everyone calls now e-commerce, with my uncle and my brother who were actually flipping things on eBay at the time. And it was like so slow back then. The internet was really annoying. But I was like 12 or 13 when I actually started my own business. I opened up my own eBay account, and I had to do everything under my mom's name. So she actually doesn't know this, and maybe she'll see this one day, but I actually took her ID from her purse, and I got her info, and I got her bank card, and that's how I created my eBay. And back then, transactions were through PayPal, but it wasn't the same company, so I had to do a whole different account there. And I started flipping when I was 12, 13. I was flipping everything from video games, toys, random things sometimes. And I remember telling friends, and I don't even know what grade I was in, 6th or 7th at the time, telling them that I had like all this stuff that I was selling. And I was like, oh man, I just made $500 yesterday, because I was so excited, And they didn't believe me.
Yeah.
And they're like, show me. I was like, well, there's no bank app back then. And I didn't have a phone back then, so I couldn't show them that part. I didn't have a bank account. It was all going to my mom. So I actually had to break it to her one time, and I told her if she could take me to the bank. And I actually showed her on the computer everything that I did. And then she actually wasn't mad. I thought she was going to be mad because I took her stuff. But she actually just told me to be careful.
Yeah.
But when she saw the money with my dad, they thought I was doing something illegal.
Yeah.
Because I was making, back then, especially being 12, 13, like I would make a couple $1,000s a month.
Yeah.
I'd make $500 in a day. And everything was going to my mom's account.
Yeah, back then that's unheard of.
Yeah, it was crazy. And don't tell me what I spent it on, because I don't even know. I was saving it, I was like, I want to build something later on, but I thought it was cool. I could buy things, until the point where I eventually went with her to the bank, and they were able to give me like my own account, but she had to be on there as well because I was too young.
Yeah.
So then I had my old bank card. So it was crazy, but that ended up graduating as I got older to bigger things. So my family, aside from real estate, is heavily involved with jewelry. And that has also led them to be involved in pawn shops when we moved from LA to Las Vegas. So when I graduated high school, I got a job right away. So I graduated high school. I told my dad I wanted to drive. He said, cool, get a job so you can buy a car. I was like, oh, shit, okay. So I got a job, and it was at a gold and silver pawn shop, which most people know as Pawn Stars. They have the show on the History Channel. Technically I wasn't allowed to work there because you have to be 21 to work at a pawn shop, but they actually had like a merchandise like department or whatever you want to call it. So the laws and all that stuff ended up allowing me to work there, being only, I think I was 17 or 18 at the time. But technically I wasn't allowed to like cross this line where it was the jewelry and all that stuff, but I actually did sell some stuff anyways. But I started there, and from there I went to a bigger pawn shop, which they have branches everywhere. And I learned about a lot more things, to the point where I could just look at something and I can be like, oh, I could pay $20 for this and flip it for 80.
Yeah.
You know, because stores and not just pawn shops, they actually didn't like when you went and you're searching the items on the phone. Like, they don't want you to like make money off of their stuff or whatever. And I was kind of like, well, you have it priced at this, I can get it. Like, what does it matter? Like,
Right.
all right, you know, increase the price on it then, so I won't buy it or something, you know. But I ended up selling. The biggest thing I sold was video games. Like crazy. I used to go with 3 trash bags sometimes every single week to the post office to drop off the packages that I packed of all these video games. Like, I was making like a lot of money. Like man, when it slowed down for me, I think I had like $60,000 that I had put
Wow.
together. But I ended up using it because I thought I wanted to be in school at the time. So I paid for like school and all the expensive car stuff and all that.
Oh, man.
But I ended up getting into jewelry. And I remember that my first purchase was I can't remember the year. It might have been like a 2004, 2005. Maybe a little bit newer, but it was a Rolex Datejust. And I found it at a pawn shop for $3,500. My uncle, who has he owns a place called the Jewelry Salon. He's a jeweler out here in Las Vegas. I sent him a picture of it, and I said, hey, this is the year, this is the model, here's the serial number. I was like, it's missing some of the links on the band. I gave him all the information, and I was like, what do you think it could go for, you know, resell? And I mean, it was already used, but he's like, you could get like $35,000, maybe $4,000 for it. So I negotiated with the pawn shop, and they said I could have it for $3,000 out the door, so no taxes, you know, whatever. And I was like, I'm down to make $500, you know, I'll sell it for $3,500. But I didn't have enough money to buy it. And at the time, well, I'll take that back. I had the money to buy it, but I thought I couldn't use that money I saved. I needed it for whatever my big business was going to be in a couple years or whenever, right? So I didn't want to touch that money. So I opened up my first credit card. And I was excited. I was like, I'll just put on my credit card and I can pay it off right away, you know? I got the credit card, and it was only $1,500. I was like, shit. I was like, that's not enough. And I was like, how am I going to do this? I got to hurry up and get it, because if not, someone else is going to buy it, you know? So I actually ended up borrowing $1,500, used my credit card. I paid $1,500 cash. I ended up selling it for $42. I gave the other person $200 on top of their money, you know, for lending me the money. And that's how that started with the jewelry. And then with time, you know, I ended up flipping cars, and I helped flip houses with my dad. those are the bigger things, right?
Yeah.
But one of the ones that excited me the most was, I guess my biggest flip by myself was a 2015 Rolex Presidential. I actually spent no money at all for it. It was kind of like, hey, I have this watch. If you help me sell it, I'll give you a cut. And found a wholesaler who came from, man, I actually don't remember, but he was from China. And he traveled the world just buying watches and diamonds. And then he would go back and sell it to Europeans and people in China.
Wow.
Yeah. I still have his number if it's the same. Like, I haven't talked to him forever. But I actually ran into, so actually I never told you this. I used to go to the jewelry stores at the casinos. And if I saw people looking at jewelry, when they walked out, I would actually approach them, and I used to give them my number and tell them that, because, you know, like Rolexes, diamonds, and other watches, like even Breitling APs, they hold their value, and sometimes they can be worth more used than they were new. So if I saw that's what they were looking at, then I would actually tell them, like, hey, I'm actually a local here, and I run my own little business. And I used to give them my uncle's business card and say, this is where I work, or who I work with. And I would write my number in the back of them because it had a white back. And that's actually how I met this guy.
Wow.
And he'd tell me, hey, you know what? If you find something, contact me. And I got the opportunity with that watch, and I knew he was still in the country. And I hit him up, and I sold it to him like 3 days later for $20,000. That was probably like the biggest flip I had, and I spent no money. But yeah, that was good times.
Wow, that seems like a whole different world. You know, but going back to, you know, what you thought you were going to be, you know, you kind of you didn't stumble into flipping, but you found something that you enjoyed as a kid, and then you got and moved into your adult life, and you're still continuing to have this like entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that's definitely kind of taken over.
Yeah.
You know, not to, you know, diss the school system at all. But I think that goes along with, there's different types of people, different types of learning, and different skill sets and different passions. And I think what you find in life is you almost just stumble on finding out what makes you happy.
Yeah.
You know, you could have continued to play soccer throughout school. Would you be happy today? Maybe. You never know. But along those years, going through that life, you know, you kind of found something else.
Yeah.
That took over your passion.
Yeah. And I think doing all of that just kept that itch there that I had. And so, like, you know, I want my own thing. It's got to be big. And it's led up to now with Level24 Marketing, you know, and then other stuff coming along with it, hopefully sooner rather than later, right, as we grow. But I'm just excited, you know.
Yeah.
It's I still do the lending. I consider that my own business as well. It's second to the marketing right now. But I don't know, there's just nothing better when you can. And the one thing that I think, especially if you're younger than us, right? High schoolers, middle schoolers, when you have your own business, it's not that, you can have your own schedule and all that stuff. At some point, you know, yeah. But you got to grind it out.
Yeah.
I mean, we work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You know, we start our days at 5 every single day, 7 days a week. We're going to bed midnight. You know, like, I'm tired right now doing this podcast. But, you know, podcast helps with brand awareness, you know, who you are. So I think it's important to do it if you have the opportunity to do it. So it's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But, you know, nothing in life is easy. So I spoke about this earlier, and having a salaried job, working 9 to 5, that's not easy. At some point, you have to figure out what's worth it. So I realized later than you in my life that, the 9 to 5 was not worth it. It was actually eating me up inside, and I didn't realize it, or I realized it a little bit late. But if you own your own business, you run your own team, and you're an entrepreneur, that could exhaust you too. But I think for me, I'll say the difference is it's worth it. Because now I don't. While we work with clients of all kinds, we work with them, and we can ultimately decide who we want to work with, because there's a lot of different people out there. Sometimes we may not agree, and sometimes there are just people that are difficult to be around. And that's what I realized while I had a 9 to 5. You almost just lose yourself in that. Some people are just so difficult to be around, to work with. And, we're not getting any younger, and life is going by faster and faster. So we might as well be here and enjoy it.
And everything you say is correct, but I think you miss one thing, and it's comfort. Especially if you're young, like this is like, I think I'll preach this all day. The way you're going to lose the most money, time, and opportunities is by staying in your comfort zone. Like, you have to get out. And like we're saying, it's not easy, but actually Gary Vee just talked about this like 2 days ago, I think it was. Somebody asked, like, it's so risky, like, I don't know if I can do it or if I should do it. And especially if you're young, chances are you don't have a kid. You're not in a relationship. You're on your own. And he said basically, if you're that person, like, there's no risk. It's just you. Just go to work. And then, you can put a little bit more thought into it if you're married or you have kids, because now a bad decision could also feed off on them, right?
Yeah, it'll affect the others around you. I think, though, that most people, we're not taught or brought up to believe in ourselves. It sounds kind of harsh, but it's kind of true.
Yeah.
I'll go back to when I was younger. And why did our parents tell us to become a lawyer or a doctor? Because they made so much money, right? So we were always taught and brought up to look at other people and what they're doing. And while that's not necessarily wrong, it could be wrong for me.
Yeah.
I literally sat in a class at UC Irvine amongst, 400 or 500 other students and said to myself, what the hell am I doing here? Like, I am not a bio major.
That's what it was?
Yeah. And so I knew then that I was following someone else's path in life. And then, so I guess back then I kind of realized, wait a minute, this isn't for me. So, do I wish, or do I wish I did things differently? Sometimes. Do I have regret? Sometimes. But, life is always about learning, and that's, that goes along the same lines of business. Business is always changing. Why? Because people are always changing. Consumer habits are always changing. The world is changing. So, you gotta learn to, like, move and be adaptable. I think that's what will bring success no matter where you are in business and personal life, everything around you.
Yeah, especially now in today's world, like you're saying, you have to be adaptable and be willing to accept certain changes. Like what's happening right now, we have AI all over us, AI agents, all this talk about Web3, which I'm also learning more about all of that. Like, I didn't actually know there was different versions of the internet. So, like, version 1 ended, like, early 2000s, which was kind of like a read-only format. So people were just going on there to use a search engine, which was like Yahoo, which I think was probably bigger than Google at the time, or Google, right?
So
And
it
then-
was like an encyclopedia just
Yeah,
online.
yeah, that's like what it was. And then like mid 2000s, we got introduced to like a MySpace and a Facebook. So then it turned into like a read and a creation.
Do you remember in MySpace you were able to like add a song?
Yeah, like on the whole,
Yeah.
what's it called, the profile, your profile?
And
Yeah.
that was like the coolest thing because now you're like, oh my God, what song represents me?
Yeah, in the whole like screen, you can change the theme of like the whole profile thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. And well, I actually want to come back to that because you brought up a good point. But now we have Web3, which is in development. It has to do with like blockchain technology, which is how Bitcoin was created. So there's a lot to it. But especially if you're a business owner, if you don't adapt to these things, your business could die. You know, people are afraid of AI. I get it. But unfortunately, I believe you have to accept it and start using it.
Yeah.
Don't let it change you, because people still want to work with a human, right? Which is why your personal brand is important. But you're going to have to use it. You're going to have to use it because it's changing and you're going to get left behind. And that's exactly what happened to MySpace. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe the guy made his money. But Facebook came out and started kicking MySpace's ass. And he never changed his platform. It stayed the same to the point where I don't think anybody was on MySpace at all. And then now it's gone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. How do you use AI in your daily routine, whether it's marketing or lending?
Man, well, first, you know what's funny is we've actually been using AI for such a long time. Even from like your Amazon stick, when you talk to it, or it's sending you recommendations of what to watch on Netflix, all of that has been AI. So some people are saying like, oh, I'm scared of it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, well, hold on. You've actually already been using it for 10 years. But when OpenAI released ChatGPT, it just took it to a whole other level so fast that I think that's what scared people. And like I said, I understand it. I think there needs to be restrictions to some of the things that the AI can do. But it does make work a lot easier. The way that I'm using it right now is there's actually an extension that's been built out. If I'm not mistaken, you have to be using Google Chrome. So if you have Google Chrome on your computer, there's actually a ChatGPT extension that you can now download and just attaches to your browser. And now together with Google, who has Gemini, which is just like another version, you're getting answers like instantly. And instead of you searching on Google, I can't think of anything right now. The most popular car in 2000, you're going to scroll through that and there's going to be like 60 pages you can click through with like 12, 15 links on each page. With that extension right now, it's giving you the answers like that, like ASAP. So that's one of the ways that I'm using it. When I have to look up guidelines on the lending side, here's a tip for lenders if you don't know. I actually don't trust it fully because even ChatGPT tells you it can be off a little bit, and it's actually behind. I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think it might be off like almost 2 years. So you can't ask it anything about like 2025 or I don't even think 2024. But I will say, where can I find, this information on a VA loan? Give me the page number in the guide. And it can actually like, sometimes they'll tell me go to page 36 and then I'll go there and read it myself and find the answer if I need help with that.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember, so I've been in lending for a lot of years, but you always had to look for a book. And it was actually like this thick, and you have to look at the guidelines that way. So it's so interesting how far we've come.
Yeah.
But I remember, all the talks about, I actually think there's a class today about like this, about AI. There's always classes where it's almost like they're trying to scare you, like, is AI taking over this industry? Well, yes and no. I've even said this before when it got introduced to our work. It can take over if you let it, which is why I think there's been a big push on humanizing your brand. So if you have used ChatGPT, you type in something, and what's the output? It sounds like AI. Sounds like a robot.
Yeah.
And you can do all these things by telling it, asking it to change its tone, asking it to sound more like you, but you kind of have to like talk to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And yes, it can be scary. Yes. Because we're thinking about like iRobot, or I don't know, like other crazy movies like that.
What is it? Ex Machina, I think it's called.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, yes, it can be scary, but we can use it to be efficient. We can use it. So for me, sometimes I use it to help me spark ideas, because there's going to be those times where I have that writer's block or that creator's block, and I don't know where to get information. But how I used something similar before, and this was before Canva was created, was I would look online. Someone would ask me to make a flyer or to design some kind of brochure or booklet, and I need ideas.
Yeah.
So I would look online. I would go to Google, and search, handbook for, YMCA or something, whatever it was. And I get ideas from there. No, I'm not ripping it off. No, I'm not, plagiarizing anything, but you're just there to get ideas and to generate some kind of like spark so that you can now create and you can run with your thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's and there's nothing wrong with that. We were all taught from someone or something to do whatever it is that we do. I mean, during the time I was in school, I took one marketing class. I've taken some of those pieces to today. I've learned from you, and then all the different things I've learned creates or sparks something creative that leads to something else in the marketing that we do. People tell us sometimes, like, I want you guys to help us with or I want you to help me with marketing, but I just need help with this because I can do this part with AI. But then it sounds so like you said, like a robot, and you got to put some personality into it, put yourself into it. With the social media, your personal brand is going to be so much bigger. Starting now, especially this year with so many changes that is going to come from technology, you have places that are using an AI person that looks so real that people think that's a real girl, a real guy, and it's AI. They're gonna kick everyone's ass if you don't have a brand.
Yeah.
You have to start now, because at some point it will be too late to put yourself out there, because we're going to be flooded with 10, 20, 30, hundreds of different companies using an AI figure or animal or something that people are recognized and want to do business with that person or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So it's just crucial. Like, I can't stress it enough. Like I keep saying, I know it can be scary, but learn to use it. I think you have to incorporate it. You can use it like in everything, in everything,
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta use it.
You mentioned, I don't know why, but you said something about using an AI or using an animal, and then I noticed the shirt that you're wearing.
Oh, yeah.
So something that we recently saw was the documentary.
Oh, yeah.
And then I think through those episodes, I realized that of course, Kobe is the greatest of all time. the greatest
Yes.
of all time. Okay, no question. But
Jordan who? No, just kidding.
no, LeBron who?
Oh yeah, no, that guy.
But what has he done so well from the beginning of his career to now? And because I'm not going to say the end, because he is still marketing, he is still branding. His name has carried on through all the ups and all the downs.
Legends live forever.
Yeah. But he was able to overcome so much.
Yeah.
And he used his passion, which was basketball, his love for basketball, and then he evolved. You know, so we're talking about the evolution of a brand. You know, he came out, he was this superstar, young high school athlete, and shocked the world by skipping going to college and going straight to the NBA. Mm-hmm. So now he's going through all this pressure. You know, he's still a kid. You have some doubters, some naysayers who are telling him that he should have, you know, waited, gotten stronger, gone to college. But he didn't. Mm-hmm. And so I think he established something about his name already, even at a young age, was, you know what, like, I'm going to make it and I'm going to do it because I am that good and I believe in myself.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, that's how we actually got the name for the company, because we're huge fans. Even when we met, that's what our job interview was about, Kobe. No, yeah, you're right. And it's funny, last night I was actually watching, because you and me do this and we don't actually pay attention, but you know, sometimes when you have to do something, you'll waste too much time if you just read about something and you never take action. It's okay, you know, you might have to mess up, learn from it, do it again, and then you won't make that mistake. But he used to have, I can't remember if it was right after he retired or soon after. He used to have that like show, I guess, called Detail. Mm-hmm. You remember that? Mm-hmm. And it's funny that we got the name from Kobe. We, you know, Mamba mentality. We work hard and we try to embrace what he said Mamba mentality stands for. And in marketing, that's how we break things down. I was watching the video, right, and he's talking about how I can't remember who it was. It was Vince Carter, I think. You know, he's like, he gets the ball at the post, and he's like, if you watch this game and this game, he shot from the elbow. 30% of his shots were from the elbow, and from those 30 shots, or 30% of those shots, more than half of those were always turning to his left. So what am I going to do next game if I was guarding him? I'm going to guard his left because most of his shots came from like things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then that's how we do it in marketing. Like if we run an ad, for example, and we want to do like an A/B testing, we'll change it up and be like, this ad's we're gonna focus on the 20-year-olds, and this one we're gonna focus on the 40-year-olds, and then we can see now with the technology just on the phones, right? You can see where they hopped off if they didn't see the video fully or whatever way we show them, right? So we're breaking it all down like that so that we can produce and get better results. So I'm like, man, this is great.
Yeah, Kobe's a genius.
Yeah. I ran into an accident yesterday, and I actually used to watch it all the time, and I used to repeat some of the episodes just because I thought it was so cool how he broke it down. And like, it's things that you don't even think about. Like, another part was like, he's like, I used to do this to, I think, Tracy McGrady. He's like, I would always put my foot right here on his toe, like close to it, because I knew how he stepped and it would disturb his dribble. Like stuff like that. You don't even think about it. It's like so detailed.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's all those little details that people overlook. Mm-hmm. You know, you can say most teams watch film, but what are they really watching?
Right.
You know, someone like Kobe, someone who wanted to be great, will take the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's where some people just fall short. You know, they like to say that they're going to do something, but they don't actually do it. So I think that's another reason why, why we strongly love and believe in the Kobe and the Mamba mentality,
Marketing is it's so important. It's everywhere. And I think people don't pay attention. And when a company is struggling and they got to cut costs, it seems like they tend to cut the marketing budget. And I feel like maybe you should double down. Like, for example, out here in Las Vegas, what's something that we haven't seen in a long time during the month of January out on the streets? And it's been empty billboards. Mm-hmm. And I think we started seeing it in December. Mm-hmm. Like their contract right now, and they think it's not working, or it's not doing enough for them, or it's too expensive, whatever it is. I would go up and put up more billboards if that's the route you're trying to take. Put more out there, right? And then the Super Bowl this last weekend. If I heard correctly, they don't ever pay their performer. Mm-hmm. They pay for they give them a budget for like the setup. Mm-hmm. I think it was like $8-10 million. Mm-hmm. And then I know there's been artists that have put up more of their own money to actually make it how they want it. But off of a performance that was 30 minutes, I believe, he is right now projected to sell like almost like 250 units of his last album, I believe, or whatever it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's crazy. He performed for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But that's marketing.
Yeah.
How
many people would have said no to something like that? Oh, yeah. Too many people. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people forget about is, you could have a free opportunity, but you can turn that around and use it to your advantage. And how do you do that? You give a hell of a performance. I mean, my stories, my feed has still to this day have been all about that performance. So there was so much to say. I think he did it so well.
Yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, even leading up to it, he's got the record, of course. He's got concerts coming up. Mm-hmm. Who knows what's gonna happen next? He could have another opportunity. Somebody might say, "Hey, I want to sponsor you," or something. Yeah. So he might not have gotten paid to do it, but he'll get his.
Yeah, for sure. Where do we're talking about the AI and how everything's changing. Do you think things like email marketing, cold calling, do you think that stuff is gonna? I think it has. I don't want to say go away. It's been utilized a little less by some individuals or companies. But what do you think is going to happen?
Man, I don't think it's going to go away because I do think that, so let's talk about cold calling. Mm-hmm. For some reason, there are a lot of people who don't answer their phone. I still do. I mean, I might look at my phone and it'll say spam likely. Yeah. And that might like turn me off or turn me away and I'll hit ignore. But there are times where I answer it and it's a human. And for me to answer a spam likely phone number and it's a human on the other side, I get surprised. Yeah. So I think it's just the way that we're training ourselves that has a huge impact on the outcome. So I don't know why we don't call anybody anymore.
I think people, because you still make money off of it.
You do.
I think, honestly, people are just lazy.
Yeah, it's so much easier to send a text. If somebody says, "Oh, I called and followed up." Okay, so there's two definitions of call. For me, a call meant you picked up the phone and you dialed a number and you listened to the ringtone. That's a call. Yeah. But now there's a second definition of calling means I texted.
Yeah, I know.
So don't say you called someone when it was really a text.
I know, and I know there's all these laws coming about, you can't text without giving an opt-in or opt-out option, or even the calling part. But like when I started as a lender, I mean, you know this, man, I called like crazy.
Yeah.
For a full 12 months.
Yeah.
I lied, 13 months. A full 13 months.
Yeah.
Until that 13th month that the rates spiked up, and I was like, I gotta add something else because people are not answering, or the ones that are answering, like, the rates are where,
Yeah.
But even I still do it now, not like that, but I still do it.
Yeah.
Because you make money.
Yeah. I agree. I think people are getting lazy, or they're using other examples as their own. And I hear this all the time. Oh, those leads suck. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not the lead.
They suck.
Maybe it's not the lead, or I'm not going to go to a networking event because it's a waste of time. Mm-hmm. Well, did you choose to waste your time, or did you make the most of it? Because if you're sitting at home expecting to meet 20 people at a time, I don't know how you're going to do that. Go to an event, meet 20 people, pick up the phone, make a phone call. You might surprise yourself and land that one account or get that deal, but you've got to do it. You can't keep saying this sucks, that sucks. Well, yeah, of course. If you think that way, it's going to turn out that way.
Yeah, and that leads to following up too.
Mm-hmm.
Neil, he actually was talking about how you meet somebody new and you're like, oh, what do you do? And oh, that's great. Cool. You know him too, or you know her too. That's great. We should do something together. Let's do something like next week. And he's talking about how that happens all the time and it always pretty much dies.
Yes.
You never call that person. I never call that person. We don't text, nothing. We might follow each other on social media, but you're not saying anything.
Yeah.
And so he has a thing where I believe he said it's if he meets you today and you're like, we should do something, in a week, if that person has not reached out, he will say, hey, you know what? I was just remembering our conversation. It was great meeting you. I'm free at this time if you want to do the podcast, his follow-up.
Yeah.
And that's how you network, create business.
Yeah. I don't know why we do that. I'm sure I'm guilty of it. Oh, yeah, we should have lunch. And then you don't actually mean it, or maybe you meant it because that feeling that you got when you shook hands with someone, you had a good connection, a good conversation, or you ran into an old friend, and you say that, oh, we should get together, we should do business together, we should have coffee. I don't know why we do that, and we don't actually do it.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we were recommending, to stop, follow up, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I know, with the time right now, we had just seen, got some stuff going on with my uncle. Mm-hmm. He's in the hospital right now, and I had just seen him.
Yeah.
We had just seen him, and things like that change from one day to the next.
Yeah.
So, like, don't miss out on something that can be great, And if it sucked, then it sucked. But at least you did it.
At least you tried.
Because you never know what's gonna happen,
Yeah.
But, I think our time is coming up. So make sure you guys hit us up on social media. The website is level24marketing.com. All right, cool.
I know I've been quiet for a minute. I've been grinding, still in it. I've been counting these digits. Excuse me.